Welcome back. So in this episode we are going to be fitting the new fuel filter, we're going to be fitting the new fuel pump, and we're going to be putting this back in the truck, or at least close enough to verify that we are actually fixing the issue with a new fuel pump. So in order to do that, we need to take this guy, brand new fuel pump, compare it to that guy, the old fuel pump, and see what needs to go into it, because we definitely have a pin missing here, whereas this one down here has that pin connected with the yellow wire, or yellow connector there. So we're gonna have to take it apart and fit some stuff to the other part, but that shouldn't be too bad, and then we'll get it thrown in this tank. We will throw it back close enough to get it plugged in and see if we got any power to it, see if we can't get it to run a little bit. So if that's the case, we should be able to dump what's in here, and then put everything back into the truck, and then from there we should be able to see if we can't fire it up. Yeah, so let's get started. Alright guys, so like I said before, what we're going to do is we're going to take this apart, because we need this yellow connector, and we're going to put it over here on this guy, and then we're going to use this routing to get it as close to factory as we can on this one, on this part over here. So let's get to disassembling this and assembling this. So we did get the sending unit, or the gauge, the float, all switched over to the new pump. My problem is, well, I have two concerns here. So my first concern is, if I set the pump up like this and set this pump up in the same orientation, my first issue is look at those line routing and look at this line routing. So they are very, very different, whereas these two kind of come off in the same direction. Those are in opposite directions. So that's my first area of concern. My second area of concern is look at this harness that came on this one. It came with this real long harness, but this side, it plugs straight into the top. So this isn't an OEM replacement. I'm just so very confused on this whole thing. There's gotta be an adapter to go from this to this. I guess I could theoretically I could hardwire it in to but that's no good for if you ever have to replace it again. I mean, I'm not really sure, so I'm gonna do a little research. Maybe there's an adapter that I can get that plugs this end into basically the other side of that. But yeah, that's kind of a bummer. I was really hoping to get all of this kind of buttoned up tonight, but with that being said, I guess we will throw this back in the tank, seal everything up so it doesn't smell like gas so bad in here, and then we will come up with a plan for tomorrow. Alright guys, so we did discuss it and the decision was made to hardwire this, so we will have to cut the wiring, cut the harness on the other side, we'll hardwire it in, and then from there we should be able to install as normal. So what we are going to do is get this installed in the tank. Actually, yeah, no. I kind of want to test it before I do any of that. So what I might do is we're going to take this out, cut this off, and then we're going to wire it in and then just see if it is going to work. If the pump still doesn't work with everything over here getting power to the harness, then we have other problems. So I just want to verify that it's going to work before I put it all back together and hardwire it in and everything. So let's test it, and then from there, if it works, we'll put it all back together. If it doesn't, we will figure that out. We've got it wired in just for our test here. And as you can see, I have wrapped each of my little wires with electrical tape just to be on the safe side while we test it. I've also left all of my protective coverings on my line so no dirt gets in there. And I am going to spray, I think I've got some WD-40 just to lubricate it, just so it's not running dry. Won't make a difference in the grand scheme of things. So I just want to test it, like I said, before we, it's just going to be a quick on. As soon as I hear it, I'm turning it off. So, hopefully all works and we don't have any issues. So let's shoot some WD-40 in here. We got to run our jumper wire, and then from there, we will give it a shot. So now it's all lubed up, we will see if she fires up, see if she hums.
sorry for the noise, guys. My girlfriend just pulled up in her car. It's making a ton of noise. But we just tried it. Fuel pump worked. That's awesome news. We're going to get this installed into the tank, wire it just a little bit better, more permanent anyway, and then from there we will install the tank in here because we got a lot of extra wire now, and then from there we'll get the tank put back up in here with our fuel lines all hooked up and our vent tube and all that good stuff, and then our fuel return, sorry, not vent tube. And then from there we will go up in here and change that filter. So let's get to it. Alright guys, so I'm gonna just take this off real quick to show you what I did. It's right here. So I shrink wrapped each individual one, and then I wrap them all together, and then I put this coating around it. So we should be pretty darn good to go on that front. And we did get the fuel pump working, as you heard. So next is going to be to build this into the tank. It's not going to be as easy because we got to do it under the truck because of the hard wiring, but that is okay. So with that being said, let's jump to putting the tank in over here and getting it bolted back up before we jump up to that front and start doing that as well. Alright guys, I did have to rewire everything in order to get the ring that locks the fuel, the sending unit, fuel pump, whatever, into the tank. So now that we got that done, let's get this lifted up in. We will connect our overflow and our fuel lines, and then we will, like I said, move up to that fuel filter, and then I'm going to look at the lines to see if I have to put that other tank in or if we can let it run from what we've got here. So let's get this tank up there. Alright guys, as you can see, we got our vent or overflow hooked back up, and we have our other fuel lines hooked back up and locked in with our new locking tabs. So I wish I would have run that harness over top of that, but I think with the shape of this we'll be okay. And with that being said, we've got our filler neck is over there, and we have the vent tube that it runs in the center of it. We have that all hooked back up. So really all we got to do is get this tank back up into the right spot, and then this tank is done. So let's get that done real quick. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, we finally got our tank back in. I got the fuel filler neck all back in and strapped down. We got all four strap bolts back in and tight. So next, let's jump over to the fuel filter, which should be right over here next to this tank. And here's our new one, Motorcraft.
Nothing but the best. So this is pretty straightforward. I didn't show all of the last tank because it was probably what time is it? I don't know. Half hour, 40 minutes of just wrestling to get that thing in there, because on this truck you're actually supposed to unbolt the bed and take the bed off to service the rear tank, but I don't have the capabilities of doing that here, so I just dropped it out the bottom. It is much more difficult out the bottom, but it had been taken out of the bottom previously, and I can tell because all the tabs, it's got tabs like a flange all the way around the end, and that looks like it sits in the frame until it gets strapped in. So with that being said, that flange was all bent up basically so that it could fit out the bottom. So that made that a lot easier, and like I said, I just didn't have the capability of taking the bed off. I just don't have the space and stuff here. So let's keep going on. Let's get the fuel filter changed, and then let's take a look to see if the fuel lines for this guy need to be hooked up to run the back one or not. If not, I'm probably going to put it back up in there anyway. Hook up everything so nothing gets messed up, no dirt or nothing inside. And then we're going to try to fire it up. Oh, I have to drain this tank too first. Forgot about that. I don't know what I'm going to drain it into, but I got to get all that filth out of there. So let's get that fuel filter, then we'll drain this, throw it back in the truck, and then from there, let's start. So let's get that done. Alright guys, so for this fuel filter change, which is this guy right here, on this generation Ford F-150, it is about right here lined up with the back of the front door. You gotta go down, it's inside the frame rail. Kind of, this is a tank strap right here. So kind of right near the front of the front tank. Sorry for, and then you'll see that it is right here. It's right here. So the tools you'll need to make this happen, basically all you'll need is this pick. And basically all you're going to do with that pick is unclip these right here. Just like that. Same here, and then pull it off both sides. Replace it with the new filter. Make sure that your arrow is pointing for the right direction of flow. That's very important. I'm not sure if you can read that on this one, but the flow, get a better angle. The flow is pointing towards the front of the vehicle, which would be that direction. That's very, very important. So yeah, basically all you're going to do is unhook those two clips, make sure your flow is in the right direction, put it back in, but remember, there is fuel in the line, so you do not want to be laying underneath it when you pull it, so, or else you will wear fuel. So make sure that you have something for the fuel to drain into. You can point your hoses and such. I'm going to use that bucket that's over there, right there. It's an old pot. I'm going to use that to catch the fuel, and then when it's done draining, we'll put the new filter in, just like oil, and then should be good to go on the fuel filter. So let's get that done real quick. Just like that, guys, we have got our fuel filter replaced. We've got our arrow pointing for flow, and we're good to go.
So there's another thing down. The only other thing left I wanted to check is, yeah, we're gonna have to, because all it is teed into it up there. You can see. Let's get this moved, and then I'll show you guys what I'm talking about. So, if you look right up here, and all these hoses that run up for the fuel lines, you can see how they're all tied in with just a T. So that means that the whole system uses the same pressure. So if I don't put the other fuel tank back in, it'll just run like you can see it dripping there. So the other tank definitely has to go in, so that we don't lose any pressure. I don't know how that will work. Okay, so there must be a one-way on those, so it can only flow one direction out of there. So that must be how that's done in those connectors right there. So I guess it wouldn't do that, but I'm not really sure how that works, so I'm not even gonna mess with it. So we're gonna put the tank back after we drain it, like we said. So let's drain it and let's get this tank put back in.
Alright guys, so here's my dilemma. I only have this to collect the fuel from this. My problem is that is only 4 gallons. Well, 15 liters, or 1.5 liters, 16 quarts, so yeah, 4 gallons. This, on the other hand, is a 16-gallon tank. Something like that. Well, this is nearly half full of fuel, which means that there is about, I don't know, 8 gallons of fuel in there, roughly, which is not going to fit in there. So I need to come up with some way to be able to drain this and get rid of it. And I currently don't have any ideas. So when I figure that out, I will get back with you guys and we will continue getting this done. Alright guys, so we got our tank all drained. Not sure if you can see the line on camera or not, but that basically filled a 5-gallon bucket. There's still some in there, but I can't seem to get any more out, which is okay. Basically all I did was I put a bucket here, put my catch, basically my oil catch pan on it to get it kind of on the ground, and I set it up here and kind of tilted it over and let it pour into there, and then transferred from that into one of those 5-gallon buckets. Seem to work pretty well. Now we're mostly empty. I want to get all my lines hooked back up, my filler neck hooked back up, and then my fuel pump connection hooked back up. We'll get it bolted in, and then it's time to see if this thing will run on that rear tank. So without any further ado, let's get this tank put back into the truck.
so I don't know how much you saw. But I definitely got it put back up there. Got all my connections hooked back up. All my locking pins back in. Or locking clips. I've got some adjustment to do here. Get those straps back where they need to be. Tank looks like it needs to go a touch. I'll probably just adjust the strap, to be honest. And then I need to tighten down the nut because I've only hand started it so it'll stay. And then that should be it. Should be all back together. Sweet. So let's get those tightened down. We'll adjust the strap and then see if this thing will run. Alright guys, it is the next day. My GoPro did die. But now that we've got all the fuel system put back together, I need to go get some fuel. We're going to get some high tests, some 93 probably, put in there just to help clean some stuff out. And then when we do that, we'll get everything running, which will be just a minute for you guys. So we'll get some fuel and then we'll get it thrown in and we'll see if this thing runs.